week in, week out, how bullish it is, and not just in a hypothetical way, how bullish things are for Bitcoin in particular and crypto in general. However, I don't know if you've noticed this, Graham, but at least for me, on the timeline and news segments and everything, people are just in our industry and holders of Bitcoin and crypto, they don't seem very euphoric. You know, they're just kind of humming along, maybe even saying like win bull run, you know. And this kind of news is, as you said, could you imagine this 3 years ago? It's mind blowing. And here we are sitting near all-time highs, I would say consolidating underneath all-time highs with this week in, week out great news. And we're all just kind of like, yeah.
Okay, welcome back to the weekly Bitcoin.com's no-nonsense roundup of what actually mattered in crypto. I'm Graham Stone here with David Sencil, and this week we are once again tracking a new wave of Bitcoin treasury moves from meme stocks to mega cities. And we are also zooming in on a growing trend that is rather dark, which is the rise of crypto-fueled abductions across multiple continents. Before we get into it, please make sure to subscribe to David's weekly newsletter at bitcoin.com/newsletters for the sharpest 5 minutes per week signal in a very noisy space. All right, David, let's get into it.
Okay, first stop is GameStop's Bitcoin pivot. GameStop bought 4,710 Bitcoin, fueling GME shares surge. It then actually crashed afterwards. Or not crashed, but it went down afterwards. GameStop had been kind of hinting that they were going to do this for quite a bit of time, but they finally did do it. They bought 4,710 Bitcoin, which is now worth over $500 million. The move follows a March investment policy update allowing crypto allocations, and it is backed by a $1.3 billion capital raise, presumably to deepen Bitcoin's strategy, but also maybe whatever else they have planned to do. This GME, as everyone will know, is the progenitor of the meme stock strategy. And so the fact that they're getting into Bitcoin kind of seems appropriate, I would say. They're following in the footsteps of Saylor's strategy and the Metaplanet playbook as well.
Yeah. I think one notable point here, though, is that the stock actually it didn't pump. It fell basically on the news. It's not doing well. And I think GameStop, it's a meme stock, and it's just like crypto projects, meme coins, that they try to like tie some revenue to the meme coin. And then when that happens, it's actually bearish because no longer is it about imagination. It's now about actual like revenue. And I think that could be what's happening here with GME.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You saying this reminds me of that show. What was it called? Silicon Valley, right? You know, like
right, yeah,
right. You don't want to have show revenue, right? Because then you're going to be tied to that, and you want to be pre-revenue, so you can be much bigger. There is some truth to that for 100%. Again, as we've talked about on this show and others, Graham, this shows that pretty much everyone and their mother is getting into the putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet game. And here you have GameStop doing it.
So let's go over to Metaplanet, which obviously that's the Japanese strategy clone. And they just announced a $50 million issuance of ordinary bonds for more Bitcoin acquisition. So these are 0% bonds, meaning you don't get any upside on the bond itself if you're an investor in it. Now, Metaplanet already holds 7,800 BTC. So this $50 million will be to purchase more on top of that.
Pretty crazy stuff. The first thing I would say is that this might make sense than a lot of the BTC treasury copycats, just because it's in the Japanese market, which doesn't really have access to local spot Bitcoin. And so local firms and or investors can use Metaplanet, I think, in a lot smarter way than in the US, which has a lot of options for this.
Yeah. And then just on the zero interest bonds point, as mentioned by Andre on our Token Narratives podcast a few weeks ago, his prediction is that, so they started out with the bonds for these Bitcoin purchases paying some amount of interest, right? And it's a race to the bottom. And currently we're at 0% for the Metaplanet bond. And Andre's prediction, which I think seems to be playing out here, the final phase is that the bonds will actually have a negative interest rate, meaning you'll be paying to get access to that equity, which of course is ostensibly access to Bitcoin exposure itself. But that will signal perhaps the final phase of this.
Yep.
When the bonds go to the negative interest.
Yeah. I remember him saying that and thinking that we had quite a bit more time for that final phase to come about, if it does come about, which I think there's a pretty good chance it will. But seeing that we're already in this kind of middle phase, you're now at 0%. I mean, I don't know, Graham. This could be right around the corner. This could be, and then also you think about the pace at which all these copycats are proliferating. Man, you really could see the negative bond coming quite soon. So I don't know. Pretty interesting, but also something really to watch for. I think it'll be
definitely
important.
I mean, either way, though, if they're actually able to raise money, whether the bonds are zero interest rate or negative interest rates, they're actually able to raise money. What that's going to mean is buy pressure on Bitcoin. So it doesn't mean we're at the top now, but it's just adding to the bucket of reflexive risk on the downside. So when the price does finally start to fall, there's going to be a reflexive sell-off because these Bitcoin treasury companies are going to be underwater and they're going to have to sell in order to not liquidate their company.
Also, I would just say that why would the bonds go negative? Or what you would see is if you start seeing the price of Bitcoin going up a lot, that's gonna FOMO a lot of investors, and then they will be willing to take a negative interest rate bond. And so to me, that's exactly when you would see this happening, is the price of Bitcoin starts to kind of have that parabolic move up and people want to FOMO in, and then there's a lot of people just throwing their money to try to get in. So I think that's what would likely happen. This is not only happening with private firms buying Bitcoin, as we've talked about, it's going on with governments and other kind of public related institutions. Here we have New York Mayor Eric Adams. He proposed Bitcoin bonds at Bitcoin 2025, the conference I was at last week. At the Vegas Bitcoin conference, the New York mayor proposed issuing Bitcoin-backed municipal bonds, reinforcing his push to make New York City the global crypto capital. Again, I think this is probably an okay thing to do, at least from a publicity standpoint for New York State and New York City. I think have been on the wrong side of crypto for a bit of time. And anything to kind of change that public image is a good thing. The Bitcoin-backed municipal investment vehicles, as they're called, is still vague, but I hope that they go through with it, at least in some amount of money. Again, just to kind of show that New York is no longer this anti-crypto place.
Yeah, just like New York City is proposing something like this. It's effectively sovereign grade BTC collateral. And, this could catch on. And if it does, it's just more net buy pressure for Bitcoin and more institutional acceptance of it as a form of collateral. So pretty bullish.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
In case you missed it, Trump Media raised $2.3 billion for a Bitcoin treasury move. And the majority of the money is to purchase Bitcoin. So this would make the Trump affiliated firm, one of the largest public holders of BTC in the US. There are a few things to consider here. Obviously, this company isn't directly associated with Trump, but that doesn't stop the political haters from calling foul on this. So Bitcoin is becoming political. I mean, it long has been political, but this is sort of taking it to the next level. Another checkbox on that.
Yeah,
on that theme.
It's definitely giving fuel to, I would say, the Democratic Party, liberals in general, who are worried about Trump and his family kind of putting their tendrils all through crypto. Also, you have these strategic custody partners that are lining up through all these different various projects, whether it's through World Liberty Financial, their USD1 stablecoin, or in this case, Crypto.com and Anchorage, who are the custody partners for this current offering. And so, yeah, as you say, it's political. It's giving some ammunition to the other side, but I think net it's a positive for crypto in the industry. And I don't know. I don't see it. I get the concerns, and the optics might look bad from some perspectives. I just don't see it as a overall bad thing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, come on. 3 years ago, could you imagine a headline like this? I don't think you in your wildest dreams you could imagine something like this. And it's just like day after day, we're seeing these types of developments. New York City, talking about issuing BTC bonds. The president of the United States, ostensibly his company, investing in BTC on their treasury.
Yeah,
and
100%.
It's not just companies; it's also at the country level, which leads us to our next story.
Yeah, that's right. So here we have Panama is accelerating the Bitcoin adoption with bank accounts, maybe Canal payments, and maybe reserve plans. So Panama City Mayor Mizrachi announced plans to integrate Bitcoin into the national banking system, and then also talked about ideas of accepting Bitcoin as payments for passing through the Panama Canal. And as we've reported here before, perhaps a strategic reserve is in the works. So the one thing that's concrete is the first, Caja de Ahorros, which is the second largest bank there, I believe, is going to offer Bitcoin savings accounts. This is I think, a pretty good idea, and it's big for Latin American adoption. It allows people to get access to Bitcoin and in a savings vehicle, which I think is a smart way to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, the Panama City mayor looks like he's like setting himself up to be the next Bukele, like trying to turn Panama into something akin to what El Salvador has done, make Panama friendly for Bitcoin. It's just, you could be cynical and argue that this is just like it's marketing for the country, try to attract some of that attention, some of the wealth of people holding Bitcoin. But or you could argue that he actually believes that Bitcoin is going to be positive for the country, like as a or the city and the country as a savings vehicle.
Yeah. And it's probably a mix of both, right? Like I imagine politicians are motivated in certain ways that help themselves, but they also notice that these things work and they do well. And so, yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, one idea that he floated was using Bitcoin as a payment rail for the Panama Canal. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me, but on the other hand, it's kind of a geopolitical signal. Like, hey, we want to accept this neutral currency. Maybe you could argue that that's appeasing the Chinese on the one side. Well, it's like a compromise between the Americans and the Chinese. Like, okay, let's not use dollars or yuan for payment. Let's use Bitcoin.
That's interesting. Okay, I could see that. I mean, then the Chinese would have to overtly get a hold of Bitcoin, which I think they still, at least on the surface, are kind of against. But anyway, yeah. I can get behind that. What does all this mean for me? Everything that we've just spent the past 10 minutes talking about, it really does show you week in, week out how bullish it is, and not just in a hypothetical way, how bullish things are for Bitcoin in particular and crypto in general. However, I don't know if you've noticed this, Graham, but at least for me, on the timeline and news segments and everything, people are just in our industry and holders of Bitcoin and crypto, they don't seem very euphoric. They're just kind of humming along, maybe even saying like, win bull run, And
Yeah.
this kind of news is, as you said, could you imagine this 3 years ago? It's mind-blowing. And here we are sitting near all-time highs, I would say consolidating underneath all-time highs, with this week in, week out great news. And we're all just kind of like, yeah, that's right.
For me, at least, I would put it down to just my cynicism after having seen like the the hype and the frankly lies over the last couple of cycles. And so when I see this news come out, I'm always like skeptical, right? And I think a lot of people are like that. But the other part of it, of course, is that like a lot of the people in the crypto industry are just not maybe as allocated to Bitcoin as they'd like to be. They're hoping for the next altcoin run.
I also think there might be something about how the news that's coming out now is not correlated really well with the price, as in maybe the price hasn't reflected the reality of this news yet. You know what I'm talking about? And if the price were much higher or a bit higher, the news would kind of hit a little more, because you'd have this kind of matching the news with the price. And so, again, not trying to be overly bullish here, but I mean, this is like good news. And
to your point, as Linzard just noted in the comments for the video, he says it's all retail's out of the picture right now. So
that's right.
This news, you're not like in previous cycles when Elon Musk said Tesla's going to hold Bitcoin, the price like jumped like 30%. Now you're getting arguably, actually,
the president of the United States
factually much more bullish news than that, and the price barely moves. And I think this is an indication that the hype is gone. There's not really any retail hype, so the price is just grinding up by like slow institutional long-term purchases. So I mean that's a further reason to put that third mortgage on the house, lever up.
Mortgage,
no, don't do that.
mortgage. Take a loan out on your dental business to become the first dentist billionaire, as Saylor said.
Exactly.
But just finally on this one last point on this, you said that the hype is gone. I would modify that a little bit and say largely retail is gone, and put it another way, retail hasn't really come in yet, right? I feel like it's just been people who have already been in crypto for a while who have been buying crypto, and then the real marginal buyer this cycle has been the institutions. Right.
Yeah, I think retail just got so irritated with all the crypto bros over the last decade that now they're just like, forget about it. I don't care. I'm out. Like, don't tell me about Bitcoin.
Do you remember that chart? You remember that chart I put up last year where it was like women rank the least attractive the least attractive hobbies, and Bitcoin was number 2. The number 2 least attractive hobby. There was like Magic the Gathering and doing
was more
magic
attractive.
tricks.
Magic the Gathering was more attractive than being a crypto bro, I believe. Collecting Pokemon.
That's right.
totally fine.
Yeah. So I mean that's where we are, folks. That's where we are.
Let's move on to the dark side of what's happening here, because as we've seen the price of crypto assets go up a lot, we're also seeing in tandem a rise in kidnappings. So the latest one was that a Russian couple was kidnapped in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, after being lured to dinner by 2 Chechens.
Jesus.
So that's the rebel territory in Russia, I believe.
It sounds like the beginning of a movie description.
Yeah, they were tied up and held hostage until a $43,000 ransom paid in cryptocurrency was transferred by a friend. And after escaping and calling for help, they were rescued by police. But the kidnappers fled to, you guessed it, UAE. Prompting an Interpol hunt. So they're on the lam. $43,000 was paid. Looks like nobody was hurt. But another crypto-related kidnapping.
Terrible. All right. So there have been a bunch of kidnappings or problems in France. But luckily, France has charged 25 over violent crypto attacks linked to kidnapping plots. French authorities charged 25 people, including 6 miners, Bitcoin miners, in a series of coordinated kidnapping attempts targeting crypto entrepreneurs.
It wasn't Bitcoin miners. It was
a joke. That was a joke.
Okay, sorry, I fell for it.
You fell for it? No.
Classic.
Oh, it's hilarious. One failed attack involved the family of Paymium CEO Pierre Noisat. Can't read this right. The attackers, motivated by fast crypto payouts, filmed the assault in Paris, and a second kidnap was foiled near, I don't know, I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, Nantes. So, again, France, for some reason, a hotbed for crypto violence, kidnapping / extortion attacks. But it looks like the authorities are making progress on prosecuting these people.
Yeah, and then in New York, in Manhattan, a 28-year-old Italian tourist was held captive for more than a week in an apartment there before he managed to escape and alerted a traffic officer. 2 suspects, John Woltz, who is a crypto investor, there you go, crypto bro, and Beatrice Fulci, were arrested and charged with kidnapping, assault, and unlawful imprisonment. And the last one, Uganda.
All right. Yeah, we're in Uganda now. A Ugandan crypto educator was abducted, but the suspect has been traced through blockchain forensics. Crypto educator Festo Ivaibi was kidnapped by a military-linked gang in Uganda. Over $500K US in crypto was stolen from him in his project's treasury. One suspect was arrested after stolen funds were traced to a verified wallet on a centralized exchange. And the important thing here is that blockchain forensic companies were used to help crack the case. Boy, oh boy, Graham.
Yeah, it's not just cybercrime anymore in the crypto space. Public-facing people who are known to be holding crypto are increasingly being viewed as targets. And it looks like kidnapping is the attack method of choice. You kidnap them, you hold them hostage, you wait till they make the payout, and you try to escape.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, David, but I'm considering just doing this podcast from now on with a big blur over my face.
Well, I think we're probably safe because everybody knows that we're on this podcast, so that means we must be poor, right? I think,
That's right, exactly.
I don't think any of these people who were assaulted and or kidnapped are on podcasts, and we're obviously we're like the what's it called, blue collar crypto workers here in the trenches, dancing for those engagement views.
That's right.
But just to tie back to what we were talking about earlier with the fact that retail isn't here and that this is institutionally led, I would say, kind of in a macabre way, one sign of kind of crypto or Bitcoin's rising importance or rising mind share in just the public is the fact that these wrench attacks are on the rise. Right, the number of these attacks is just going up and up and up, and it does mean to some degree, like just the ambient level of acceptance and or knowledge that Bitcoin and crypto equals money. Is rising.
And
so
if you're associated with that, you're a target. David, I wanted to ask you, when you were in Vegas, did you notice anything security wise? Like was there a large amount of security there? Was it low key?
Well, so there was 2 things. There was a lot of politicians at this particular event, a lot of U.S. politicians, and so we just saw I saw escorts of like police cars around the center a lot, right? You'd see like 5 blacked out giant American-sized SUVs with flashing lights, and then some heavy-looking limo sandwiched in between them quite often. However, I will say this. So I saw in a lot of X comments during the conference that people were getting attacked, cyber attacked, out on the conference floor. So, like, for example, one gentleman said directly to Bitcoin Incorporated CEO David Bailey, he used a USB outlet in a special room, and that outlet hijacked his phone and tried to break into his Coinbase account that was connected to his phone.
Man, that's some Mission Impossible Tom Cruise stuff right there.
Yeah. So
Like
several things like that apparently were happening. Apparently, I saw some tweets that said that were warning people, like, do not use any of the free Wi-Fi hotspots that were set up around the conference. Those were honeypots. They're trying to inject scripts into your web browsing to remove funds. So I mean, yeah, it was apparently there was a lot of people trying to extract money and or info from conference goers.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
So they're taking more of the hacker approach rather than the $5 wrench attack approach, which I think does make sense actually. Considering that at a conference like this with all these politicians, there's just going to be security everywhere. So maybe not the best place to carry out a $5 wrench attack.
I also saw before the conference started, just in and around the area, I did see, I don't know, maybe about a dozen people walking around with crypto shirts on, and every single time I pointed it out to my colleagues and be like, that is a bad move. So this is like at night on the strip, 8, 9, 10 p.m. And you're wearing a shirt that says something like "HODL forever" with a big Bitcoin. So I was just like, what the hell are you doing, man? What are you doing? It is not the right move to be making, I felt like. So anyway, it was...
Yeah, maybe hold off on your ETH tattoos for now.
Yeah. And this kind of ties back into the story, though, which is there does need to be a shift in crypto culture to, I would say, in person, hide the fact that you are related to or holding crypto, right? And all the people that I saw who were walking around with that kind of gear on, they looked like, for lack of a better term, nerds, right? They were very nerdy, and they were just kind of proud, I guess, of their projects or whatever. But this is going to be something that I'm trying to bring to the public's attention, crypto public's attention, is that we need to stop wearing this kind of stuff in public,
Yeah. It's unfortunate because you want to be able to advertise, market your project if you're involved with it. But yeah, it's a sad reality, I guess. All right, let's wrap it up there. That's it for this week. So whether you're stacking sats or just trying to stay safe from those $5 wrench attacks, remember, crypto never sleeps, and neither do we. So catch you next time on the Weekly, and we're out.
Pew, 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 pew.